are the champion, the one that holds the line and finishes the mission. Everything that you want is within your grasp. You wake up in the morning ready to dominate the day, and every step taken is with purpose and integrity, because you were not put on this planet to live a mediocre existence. You are here to conquer and make the biggest impact possible, not only for yourself, but for your family and for your tribe. This world is a battlefield, and we will be victorious. This is the Norse Mentality.
What's up, guys? I hope that you are having a glorious day. If this is your first time listening to the Norse Mentality, my name is Andy Lewis, and with me is Cody Whitley, aka the Cowboy himself. This podcast is designed to help you reach your true potential, and we go over different things in every episode that will hopefully help you live the best life possible. Now, on this episode, I want to talk about how physical training will help you level up in every aspect of life. Now, usually when people are working out, when they're doing martial arts and stuff like that, they know that they're getting stronger. They know that they're probably going to look better in the mirror, but they don't take the other things into consideration about how it's going to help you physically, but it's also going to help you mentally, and it's going to help you spiritually. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the first thing that I think we should tackle here is how it's going to help you become more resilient. And the reason for that is because most people will experience that if they've done any sort of training. When you really have to push your body to the next level in order to really get any sort of results. If you're weight training, you need to go to failure during certain exercises to really stimulate that muscle, break it down. That way it grows back stronger and bigger. If you're doing Muay Thai or jiu-jitsu or something like that, you're going to really have to push yourself during those sessions more than you would if you didn't have a coach or an opponent or something like that really challenging you. So we know that you become more resilient because you have to push yourself in order to see the results that you want. Because why else would we be doing this? That's really it. Like, you are forcing yourself to go beyond a certain extent than what you are currently experiencing prior to doing so.
I think the root of that, where people just stop physically, is because that's the easiest to see. If you work out for, if you've never worked out before, if you've never done any kind of physical activity, those first 3 months, your progress is pretty exponential to where you take that step and you're not as sedentary as you used to be. So that change in those first 3 months, like the progress is very significant. But because it's easy to see physically, I think we tend to forget that it also has mental and spiritual aspects as well.
It's absolutely very easy to miss that. And the beautiful thing about training in general is that if you're just getting started, the smallest workout is probably going to whoop your ass. And that's how it continues, because you can always go harder during your training sessions. You can always put more weight on the bar. You can always spar with more intensity. There is no limit on that, meaning it never gets easier, meaning you always have the opportunity to become more resilient, to push your body past a certain point that you've never experienced before. And that's why I love it, is because there is no ceiling on it. Now, people might place a ceiling on themselves like they do with every other aspect of life, but in all reality, there is none. You can always push yourself harder. And this doesn't just apply to the gym, doesn't apply to martial arts. It also applies to hiking. I've had to push myself harder while I'm hiking more than I have had to do in any sort of avenue of physical fitness. Same with mountain biking. Like, if I'm having to go up a just steep hill and I'm really having to dig in, because that ego part of me is just like, you're not getting off this damn bike. Like, you're going to pedal up this motherfucker like your life depends on it. But that is the beautiful part about training in general, is that there is no limit on what you can achieve and how far you can push yourself. And every time that we enter into the gym, that's the mindset that we need to have, is I'm going to go a little bit harder than I did last time. Because if I'm not, then I'm going to become stagnant. We always have to be raising that bar. We always have to be putting more weight on the bar. We always have to be going harder during our training sessions if we're sparring with other people. So that is the first aspect there, is you will become more resilient if you're doing any sort of physical training. Now, the second thing, mental toughness. Now, we talked about how you will become more resilient physically while training, but there's a mental toughness aspect to that as well. And that's kind of when your mind is saying, I want to give up. that other side of you, that real you kicks in and is like, we're not giving up. We're going to push ourselves a little bit harder. That carries over to every aspect of life. Say if you're just having to bang out a paper for school, or if there's a work project that you really need to finish, you're going to apply that same principle that you use in the gym to other areas of life where, okay, this needs to get done. I'm not stopping. Regardless of what my mind is saying, regardless if I have motivation, I'm going to go further. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to add more weight to the bar. I'm going to push myself harder than I did before. And you have to kind of override that self-talk that's saying we're done. Because there is another aspect of you that wants more for yourself. And that's the hard part. And that's why it's easy to stop at the physical aspect, because everyone can feel that. They can feel that their legs feel like jello after a heavy squat session. Or if they get done on a heavy bag or something like that, just doing round work. They can feel that. But a lot of people associate their thoughts as reality.
One of the cool things about mental toughness and training is going to failure, and I'm talking complete failure.
Absolute failure.
Not, weight failure, not body weight failure, but going to absolute failure. It does increase your mental toughness because you know you can get there and you know you can push past it. Like I'm talking like you think that you can't do one more push-up and you do it. What that does is it raises your confidence in yourself and it sets a new bar for you. Like you just completed that. Well, now you know you can do that. You know you can go past that burn, past whatever that limit that you had set for yourself is. Well, you just proved to yourself that, that limit does no longer exist.
Whereas in 6 months earlier, you could have never dreamed of doing that. And then you go, what else can I do? If I override this self-talk of mine that's saying I need to give up, if I refuse to do so and I keep moving forward, what else can I achieve? And we can apply that once again to every aspect of life, financial, relationships, everything. You remove that ceiling. You set a higher expectation for yourself. There is a new standard. Each time that you hit a new PR in the gym, there is a new standard. This is the baseline. I need to go above that now. And then I need to go above that. And there is no limit on this. It just continues to raise. So we've built physical resilience. We're building mental toughness. These are all things that we can apply on a daily basis outside of the gym. The next thing here is going to be developing self-discipline, because if we're going to see continuous progress in training, then we have to have discipline. We have to show up to the gym a certain amount of times every week. We need to eat the right foods. We need to get plenty of rest. We need to drink plenty of fluids. We need to make sure that we're doing all of these things that's going to give us the results that we want. Now, the only way that you get those results is through continuous repetition. It's having the discipline to not eat like shit every night of the week or to drink as much as we used to. It may mean not going out on the weekends and instead staying at home. This is the only way that we do continue to move forward and see the progress that we want, is through discipline. If you say that you're going to show up to the gym 4 times a week and you do that, what that is doing is it's reprogramming your subconscious mind that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Because a lot of times throughout life, especially in our early years as teenagers and our early 20s and shit like that, we don't take things as seriously. And I think that's a good thing and also a bad thing. But what we're doing there is that we are telling our subconscious mind and we're kind of building an identity for ourselves where we don't follow through with what we say we're going to do. That is not the type of person that we want to be, especially when it comes to what we want to achieve in life. If we say that we're going to do this, we need to do it. If you tell your bro, hey, I'll be there to help you with this, you need to show up and do it. You don't want to be the type of person that doesn't hold up their end of the deal. But a lot of times we neglect ourselves in that equation. It's very easy for us to say, well, I don't need to do that. But if you have discipline, which is a habit, You can build discipline. It doesn't matter who you are. You can develop more self-discipline for yourself. You slowly start becoming the type of person that just shows up and gets the damn work done. And when it comes to training, you have to do that. Because if you don't, you start falling backwards. You have to be consistent with it. Now, it's okay to take time off every once in a while, as you should for recovery purposes. But there's a balance there. And it's kind of setting that expectation for yourself. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. If you do that for 60 to 90 days, the amount of self-discipline that you build is outstanding. It's ridiculous. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. There is no better way to build self-discipline than following a strict meal plan for 30, 60, 90 days. If you can follow a strict meal plan for that amount of time, you will level up so much that you won't be able to recognize yourself after that period of time is gone. And it's also, that's now your identity. You are someone that eats healthy. You're not someone that just indulges in shit quality food all the time because you see the results from it. When you look in the mirror, you like what you see instead of hating what you see. That is going to boost your confidence. Well, if you have more confidence, you have more confidence in everything. So that's very important to realize here. If we want to excel in life, if we want to become the best version of ourselves, we have to have discipline. There is no one that has achieved anything great that did not have a certain level of discipline. And this is something that we can acquire for ourselves.
My early 20s, when I started lifting, there was at this time it was like that thing in bodybuilding where it's like you had to work out 7 days a week. Like everyone was scared to talk about their PED usage, and they just got big by eating chicken and rice and working out 7 days a week.
Taking creatine.
Yeah. So the self-discipline thing was, for me, it got very toxic. So what I do now is it seemed, and this has been recently, like towards the end of last year, every 3 months I'll take like 2 to 3 weeks off from lifting, now from Muay Thai a little bit just to give my joints a break. But that is not lacking discipline. That is giving your body the time it needs to recover, time to grow. And that is a moment that you need to do. And it's you have to look at it from a perspective, okay, well, if I take this time off and I rest and I allow my body to recover and heal itself like it needs to after this big sprint that I just had physically, have gratitude for yourself. Understand that that is not a lack of discipline. If anything, it's more discipline. So if you get into this habit and this addiction of physical activity, which it is, like once you start leveling up physically, it becomes very addicting because it's strict, easy to see improvement. Your discipline comes in when you rest. You have to be disciplined enough to take the time off to allow your body to recover, have gratitude, and reflect on the things you have just overcome in the past 3 months. And that little break will set you forward exponentially instead of just trying to just every day push as hard as you can. The discipline comes from just doing something every day to make yourself better.
Consistently. Right. And then there's different aspects of that too. Either if it's eating, if it's going to the gym, you should be going to the gym every day. Now, I think that you should be doing some sort of physical activity, even if that's just walking though, like getting in
for sure
10,000 steps, whatever. But like you said, you take that time off. I know you, but not everyone that listens to the podcast does. You're not just being lazy with that time off. Like you're still getting after it in different aspects of life. You're not just laying around the couch for 3 weeks straight and not doing anything. Like you're still leveling up in other areas. But if we want to grow, we have to recover. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially in this world that we live in where it's just nonstop grind culture. That is not something that we want here because it doesn't actually work in your favor. You have to balance the two out. If you want to build muscle, it means breaking down the muscle and then having adequate recovery time in order for that muscle to grow, because that's when it's growing. It's not growing inside the gym. Not a lot of people realize that, but your muscles are not growing inside the gym. You're breaking the muscles down. Then when you're sleeping, when you're eating, when you're taking that time away from the gym, that's where it is repairing and that's where it's growing. Same with cardiovascular, same with mental. Whenever you read a lot or if you study something for a long period of time, you have to give yourself time to process that information instead of just constantly cramming your head full of more things. That's why I like to have this rule where now I don't read on Sundays. And if I do read, it's just very casual reading where it's not really me trying to learn something new. It's just me kind of, I don't know, just kind of enjoyment, right? I'm not studying anything. I'm just kind of allowing whatever I learned throughout the week to kind of catch up so I can process it. And then on Monday, I'll start studying again. But we have to take this time off to do that. But going back to self-discipline, all discipline is, like Cody said here, is doing something consistently over time. The more that you do it, the more discipline that you build. Now, we want to make sure that those habits that we're doing on a daily basis are productive and that they are moving us closer to this person that we want to be. The goals that we set for ourselves, all those goals is we want to create a new identity for ourselves. We want to improve our current identity. So we're creating these little obstacles to pursue that's going to move us closer to this person that we want to be. The only way that we get there is through repetition and through having self-discipline. And discipline is something that anyone can learn. It's something that anyone can gain for themselves. It's not something that you're just born with and then over time, you either have it or you don't. Everyone on this planet can develop more discipline for themselves, and nothing will do that more than being consistent with your training. And then also what you're doing outside the gym to make sure that you are actually getting the full results from the training, the full benefits of it. That's recovery. It's eating right. It's making sure that you're taking that downtime to kind of allow everything to process and catch up. That way you have more energy to stack victories inside the gym or during martial arts or whatever your physical activity passion is. Now, the next thing here is whenever you're lifting weights, you're going to have setbacks eventually. Any sort of training, you're going to experience setbacks, but we also experience setbacks in every aspect of life. Life is going to throw you obstacles that are going to completely knock you down. And then you're going to have to get back up and figure out how you're going to maneuver around this obstacle. How are you going to overcome this obstacle? That way you can continue moving forward. If you're lifting weights, there's going to get to a point where you are probably going to plateau. You're not going to continue seeing muscle progress, muscle definition and stuff like that as quickly as you did when you first started lifting. That can be very mentally straining on people. It can really cause them to kind of reconsider if they should even be working out in the first place, or maybe you get injured. That is a huge setback. Now, I hope that everyone that is listening to this podcast, I hope that they're training in a way where they avoid getting injured, but sometimes it just happens. You fucked yourself up before and it wasn't even through lifting, or was it? Your back.
No, dude, there's been a lot of fuck ups with everything. I would say in my early 20s when I started like bodybuilding, strength training, there was a lot of injury that I just disregarded because of where my headspace was at that time. I mean, recently, like over the weekend, I dislocated one of my ribs in my upper back. Like it was a setback, but you have to understand that if you don't take care of yourself in that moment and the following days post injury or whatever injury you have, for example, like it took me a couple days to get over this rib. But if you don't understand that, if you don't fix that problem and take care of yourself, you cannot train adequately past that point. You have to deal with the injury. You have to deal with everything that comes with it. And one of the biggest problems that I had when I started lifting was that I put all of my stress relief into the gym. That was my only outlet. And that caused me a world of problems because there would come a time where I would get injured. I think in college, when I started taking lifting seriously, I ended up breaking my wrist. Well, I couldn't go to the gym how I wanted to. I couldn't get in there and try to kill myself and relieve my stress because that was my only outlet. And what that did is it put me in a worse headspace. So I didn't have any other outlets but the gym. Well, if I can't perform in the gym, my self-worth is based on the physical and what I look like, blah, blah, blah. That was a very hard thing for me to swallow. Well, if you have multiple outlets, which you should, for stress relief, if you do get injured in the gym, then you can turn to something else.
Right. And like you said, those setbacks, when it did happen, when you really were not able to go to the gym anymore and you were just mentally fucked for a little bit, what that did was it forced you to explore different avenues to get yourself back on track. But that is a blessing in disguise. You had a setback in the gym that now you're having to figure out a way around in your everyday life. And like I said, this is something that's going to happen in every area of life. You're going to experience setbacks. Everything is not going to go as planned because we cannot control everything in the external environment. The only thing that we do have control over is our internal environment. So pursuing some sort of training, knowing that setbacks are going to happen, you're not going to be able to show up as much as you want to every day. You might get injured. There's all these different things that can happen. But when those things do happen, that is a learning opportunity for you that you can carry over to everything.
Let's talk about stress for a minute. Stress, I think, is used very umbrella term these days. You can have different kinds of stress. You can have mental stress, physical stress, metabolic stress in the body. There's all different kinds of stress. The cool thing about stress is no matter what category of stress you're going through, there is a baseline of stress that you can handle. Past that baseline, you might get a little anxious, like things you might get out of your routine, like things could be throwing off. Lifting puts you under physical stress, which increases that baseline to where if something mentally hits you very heavily, the stress that you've been enduring is the ability to handle these situations and setbacks.
And it's not just physical stress either. There's mental stress involved with it. There's emotional stress. I mean, there are different aspects of stress that you have to learn how to kind of handle in the moment while you're working out, while you're training, that you can then take outside of the gym and use in your everyday life. Say, I mean, if you're doing just during Muay Thai, if you're really just getting after it and there is no stopping because your coach will ream your ass for it. Like, you know that stopping is not a possibility. So you have to force yourself to continue going. Well, at that point, you're having to override physical. Your body is just like, I want to shut down. You're having to override that mental aspect, that negative self-talk that's saying we can't do anymore. There's the emotional aspect of it as well, where you're just like starting to lose your shit. You have to learn how to kind of take all of those things and get it back under control in that moment. That's what Muay Thai did for me, at least. It really made me learn how to control everything that was going on in my internal environment instantly, because I didn't have any other option. Like, I had to get it together as quickly as possible, because it's not like I could just stop and be like, hey, I need a breather real quick because I'm just kind of freaking out. No, like, I had to learn how to get my shit together in the moment in order to continue doing what I needed to do to get done.
There's a big difference, and I don't think this is talked about a lot. You're going to encounter stress in some form or fashion every day of your life. And most of that can be external stress. But when you consciously make the decision to put yourself under stress, like we're talking about with lifting weights, like you're talking about with Muay Thai, like hiking the same way, you learn to maintain your clarity through stressful situations because you have to. If you can't think when you're under stress in Muay Thai, there's a chance you're going to get kicked in the head or punched in the face. Like, it teaches you, because you're willingly putting yourself in that situation, it teaches you more than if the universe throws you into a stressful situation. You made the decision to do this. You made the decision to better yourself. The benefits from consciously putting yourself in stressful situations and raising your baseline of stress in the process sets you up to handle something that might not be under your control way better.
This leads us to our next point, which is it helps you gain more self-awareness. What Cody was just talking about there, that is 100% self-awareness. It's being aware of your internal environment and then knowing how to control that. Whenever you become self-aware, you level up tremendously because you're able to control your actions. You're able to control your reactions to different things. Whenever you're triggered by something, you can kind of take an outside view of that. Instead of acting on it, you take an outside view of it and you go, okay, this is how I would usually handle this situation in the past. I know that is not the right way. So how can I kind of change course here and tackle this from a different avenue? And that's what we learn how to do through self-awareness, which we gain in the gym. The gym also forces you to be present in that moment. If you're not present while you're lifting, you're probably going to get hurt. We also want to contract the muscles that we're working as much as possible. That's being in tune with your body. That's having self-awareness over your body and knowing, okay, I'm working these muscle groups. I need to kind of really focus on contracting this, controlling the movement itself. That way I don't get hurt. Every time that you do that, your level of self-awareness expands. And we have self-awareness in general. The more that grows, the more it's going to carry over to everything else. But that is the most important part here. Out of everything that we just listed, yes, it is cool to be more resilient. It is very beneficial to be mentally tough. But having self-awareness over yourself, over how you respond to things, what that does is it allows you to control your destiny. It allows you to show up differently than you have in the past. People get stuck on this idea that how they are right now is how they're always going to be. At any given moment, you can change how you respond to a situation. And once we have self-awareness in one aspect of life, we have more self-awareness in every aspect of life. That means not losing your shit on your kid or your partner over something small. It's while you're at work, knowing when you're procrastinating and getting your shit together and not procrastinating anymore. It's all these different things that are usually holding us back. But now, because we have more self-awareness, we can see it clearly and we can choose a different way to respond to it. So in my opinion, that is the major benefit of training, is that it increases self-awareness. And the longer that you do this, the more self-awareness you're going to have, because it is inevitable. You learn to be present in the moment when you're in the gym. If you're training Muay Thai or jiu-jitsu, you have no option but to be present, because you're going to get knocked the fuck around. You might get knocked out if you are not present, watching the other person, figuring out what your next move is, stuff like that. You can't have all this other shit from the day playing in your head, because you're not going to show up as your best self and you might get hurt in the process.
Self-awareness taught me two major things. The first thing, especially coming from everything I've mentioned previously from my early, bodybuilding style training, powerlifting training, and that grind culture that we mentioned, where it doesn't matter what you're feeling like or how you have to push as hard as you can. Self-awareness, when you're in tune with your body in training and you realize that you're sore and something doesn't feel right, well, that's how you decrease your risk of injury. That's how you cut back on the intensity a little bit to let your body heal in that moment. That connection to yourself, you learn that every day is not 100%, because that's going to eventually make you crash. If you go into the gym every day of the fucking week and try to lift as heavy as you can, guess what? That's not going to last very long. But if there's self-awareness, if you have a heavy day or a heavy training day in the gym, you have a heavy hike, you have a heavy Muay Thai session where the next day you're beat up and you're self-aware that you can't give 100% that day, but you can do something to still move you forward.
You can also arrange the day around that.
Correct.
So if you know that you have a really hard training session that day, well, the rest of your day might not be as intense. You're able to kind of control that. You're able to control outside stressors as well. It's like, okay, I know that this conversation here is going to stress me out. I've got more important shit going on later, so I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm going to focus on this instead. Whereas then if you don't have self-awareness, you're just acceptable to everything else around you, the external environment. Everything gets to you. And then once you do finally get to the gym, you're not showing up as your best self because you allowed all this other shit throughout the day and through the week and whatever else to impact you in a negative way. So having that self-awareness is what allows you to dictate what comes in and what goes out.
The second major thing, and this is probably the most important thing that self-awareness has taught me, was depth. I started to ask myself why I was going to the gym. Why am I training? Why am I doing this today? And it takes that physical, superficial layer. Well, I'm doing this to look better. Well, I'm doing this to make myself better, more resilient physically. And it allows you to look deeper. Well, I'm training for mental benefits. I'm training for spiritual benefits. I can just see on the surface what the physical is. So before every training session I do, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's, the 4 major physical activities I do are lifting, hiking, snowboarding, and Muay Thai. I ask myself why I'm doing each of these activities before every session I do. And it strengthens the fact that this isn't just to look better. This isn't just to be stronger physically. So once you learn how to do that, discipline just comes naturally because you see the overall benefits from the surface level to the very deepest point. Well, I know that even if I just move a little bit, that's going to help my mental and emotional and spiritual just as much as the physical.
Anytime that you can set an intention, it's going to help you in so many different ways. Even if you're doing yoga or meditation, or if you're going into the gym, or really anything for that matter, any sort of activity, when you have an intention behind it, that's what's going to keep you grounded, and that's going to help keep you in the game longer. A lot of people have issues with meditation. They can't do it for longer than 5 minutes without losing their shit. They just can't do it. But if you have a strong intention behind it, as in, I want to learn how to be more calm. I want to learn how to better control my emotions. That way I can show up as a better parent. That way I can be there for my spouse whenever they need me or whatever it is. That intention there, when you want to stop meditating, you remember that intention and you continue going through it. You don't give up. When we are in the gym and we have multiple reasons of why we need to be going to the gym, because it's helping us mentally, it's helping us physically, it's helping us spiritually, that's going to help us bang out that extra rep that we need. So having that strong intention, knowing your own morals and values, having that self-awareness of what is best for you, that is the motivation that you need to continue moving forward. That is that internal flame that keeps burning. And the more intention that you have behind something, the bigger that flame gets, the more motivation that you're going to have to push through. And that's where that mental toughness and the resilience and everything else comes from, is the initial intention behind it. And that's why we wanted to do this episode, was to give people more reasons besides just getting stronger and looking physical, because that's not very deep. There's not really much to that. It's very just, in all reality, you're comparing yourself to other people. Now, strength is one thing. I want to be stronger because I just want to be a stronger person. Like, there's that, but who are you comparing that to? Probably someone else in the gym. As far as how you look, you're probably comparing that to someone else as well. Those are very shallow things. They're great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. You should want to look good. You should want to be healthy. You should want to be as strong as possible because you want the best for yourself. And you also understand how that's going to impact everyone else around you in a positive way. But there's so much more to it than just that. And that's why we made this episode, is to kind of give you guys that extra push to be like, okay, when I am training, it's more than just getting stronger and looking good in the mirror. I'm going to level up in every aspect of life by taking the time every day or every week or whatever and putting in the work during my training session and giving it all that I have, because I know that I'm growing in more than just these 2 shallow ways. I'm growing in a very profound way. And then over time, I'm going to be a different person. I'm going to be mentally tougher. I'm going to have more control over my emotions. And I'm also going to get to know myself a lot better because I have more self-awareness. And then I can show up as the best version of myself in everyday life. Is there anything else you want to add to this?
Just to talk about physicality and physical in general. The harsh reality of physical is that physical always fades first. Nursing taught me that. You see older people, and there are anomalies, but for the majority of the population, physical is the first to go. And you start hitting your 60s and 70s, of course, like even in your 50s, you can't push as hard as you used to. So if your value, if your self-worth is based on physical only, that is going to fade at some point.
What are you going to do when you're 60, 70, 80 years old?
So the mental, spiritual aspect does not fade.
Ever. And that's where training comes in. It helps build that. And the longer you do it, the more that it builds. There is no limit on this. You can always evolve spiritually. You can always become mentally tougher. Those things never go away. And that's why working out is so important. And at the end of the day, we should be doing this because of the respect that we have for ourselves. We want the best for ourselves. We appreciate ourselves enough that we're going to do whatever we need to do to be healthy. We're going to eat the right foods. We're going to train. We're going to read books. We're going to do all of these different things because we love ourselves. Anyone that works out loves themselves to a certain extent. They may not realize that. But if you didn't, your ass would be sitting on the couch watching Netflix and eating an extra large pizza all the time. You would never leave that couch. But because you want more for yourself, it means that you love yourself, as you should. And that's why we really need to prioritize these type of things. It's not just about looking a certain way. And I think that's why a lot of people, they don't even pursue training in the first place. So I don't really care how I look. Okay, that's fine. But there's so much more to it that you're missing. And the reason for that is because it's never talked about in today's world. Everything that revolves around fitness is based solely off of looks because the culture that we live in. Fuck the aesthetics. They're great. Yeah, like there's nothing better than having a great pump, looking jacked and juicy, seeing muscle building over time. Those are all great things. They boost confidence. And it's also like, I'm taking care of myself. This is awesome. But there's also a very toxic side to it where people are blasting so many drugs that they're going to die in early death. And for what? So you look a little bit better? How about we attack it from a different perspective? How about we train because we want the best for ourselves? Because we recognize the fact that we are going to improve spiritually, mentally, and physically. And if we're tackling those three aspects of life, we will excel. We will have the best life possible. Those are the three priorities that everyone should be pursuing on a daily basis. And guess what? You can do it in one place, and that's in the gym.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Norse Mentality. This podcast is a byproduct of Norse Fitness. We make clothing, fitness accessories, supplements, and other tools to help you reach your true potential. You can check it out at norsefitness.co. And if you found this episode beneficial, please share it with a friend. That way we can continue to make a bigger impact and change the world. Thank you for your support, and we'll talk to you soon.